Hello internet, I thought I would pop on here and show my face because I thought it was about time to offer my 2 cents into how to get into the publishing industry.
Number 1.
So first of all, I would say this might be obvious advice for those of you that are slightly ahead in your job hunt, but sign up to the bookseller. If you haven't already signed up, it is a hugely valuable tool for job hunting and being aware of what's going on in the industry. So when you get an account, you get access to all of the articles that are posted on there, and there'll be things about different rights deals where publishers are acquiring the rights to a series of books or an author's new debut novel, and all sorts of news about your favourite authors, what departments are moving around and hiring different people, so you get to know who's working where. But most importantly is the jobs board, and that's where I went to look for a lot of jobs. I think some other examples I can think of off the top of my head, there's Book Brunch. There is also the Independent Publishers Guild. So they are an organisation that helps to promote and celebrate and support independent publishers, but they also have a page where they advertise all of the jobs that are going at those independent publishing houses. There's also Creative Access, which is a really great platform for anyone who's applying from lower income backgrounds or from different minorities. Creative Access is great for all kinds of creative jobs in the media, publishing, theatre, stuff like that. So you can find publishing jobs there quite often from places like Hachette, and I think Penguin were on there, and I think that's it. There might be something called the Publishing Post. I might have to double check that one. There's a few agencies that will help you apply to jobs, although I've never personally used them. I've heard mixed reviews. But yeah, there's things like Think Selection and Inspired Selection, and they look out specifically for those kinds of creative publishing jobs, media, journalism, that sort of thing. But yes, there are plenty out there.
Number 2.
If you are still at university or an alumni, I don't know which, but make use of any job boards that your lecturer shares with you. I don't know what, industry you are studying in, but if you are likely to be studying in English or publishing or some sort of humanities creative thing, there's likely going to be jobs that come up in the industry. So check with your lecturer, see what they can share with you and what opportunities they can send your way. If you are coming from another industry and say, for example, you are a scientist, you could use your expertise as an avenue into publishing, which seems like an obvious tip, but I don't know if it occurs to that many people. There are plenty of educational and scientific publishers out there which need people with the knowledge to work on specific books and to commission specific books. And any awareness of the processes of using or reading journals is great too. Anyone with a degree is already at an advantage because it's likely you will have already read a lot of academic journals and textbooks and things like that, so you will know the processes.
Number 3.
I would say is to get some admin skills. If you are starting out as a publishing assistant or an editorial assistant or any kind of junior role, that is like the number 1 skill they want you to have, and it doesn't really matter how you get it, but you could have some secretary work or might have worked in a marketing role, doing sales calls, anything like that where you've had to jiggle around with a spreadsheet or take phone calls, write an email, organise your tasks. Any sort of awareness of task management is a very useful thing to show. Use of databases. They are all things they highly value because they like to see that you are able to stay on track and keep organised and to get to grips with their systems. It's how you demonstrate those skills that is the key thing. So if you are going into an interview or you're writing a cover letter, the STAR method is really useful. Situation, task, action, result.
Number 4.
This is a bit of a tenuous one. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but if you can and if you can bear it, do a master's degree. I've noticed a lot of people getting into jobs, not that it should be this way, but a lot of people getting jobs have already got master's degrees. I'm currently studying for one. I'm in the stage now where I'm doing just the dissertation, and I found just from all the different modules where I'm learning about the different parts of the industry and the different departments, it's really helped me like deepen my knowledge and actually understand what they're talking to me about if I do go into an interview. The thing is, it's such a competitive industry, it feels a little unfair to be telling people to taking an insane amount of time and money to study for what could just be an entry-level job. And I think that's more of a reflection of how competitive it is now. But if you were thinking about it anyway, maybe this is your sign. I found it personally really helpful, and that would be the credit of Oxford Brookes University. They've been amazing. I did mine all online because I didn't want to stop working, because I've already been in the working world for a few years now. So I always had the stability of knowing I was getting some money. I didn't have to move out. I could stay where I was, keep my routines within reason. And I also wasn't full-time studying all day, every day. But yeah, I think it's something worth considering, especially if you are academic and you enjoy studying.
Number 5.
Make sure you are on LinkedIn. I think, yes, it's not the best site in the world in many ways. It is quite businessy still. There's a lot of jargon floating around and thought leaders, and you have to kind of dodge the bullets like Keanu Reeves. But anyway, I think it is a very useful tool, because where you're not applying to jobs or where you're not actively looking, you've still got a visible online portfolio there. And even if you just log on for like 5 minutes a day to comment or like something and share articles that you're interested in, especially if you're following the bookseller and you share their articles, it kind of, at the very least, shows you are dedicated and interested, and you could probably start adding the people on LinkedIn that work in the areas that you want to work in. I don't know how likely they are to say yes, but I got some connections for it, which I found really useful when I was doing my dissertation actually, because I posted my call out for interviewees on LinkedIn. You can't underestimate the power of your lecturers and the connections they have.
Number 6.
And as for the people that maybe don't go down the academic route, there's another really important thing: apprenticeships and internships. They are specifically designed for people that might be coming straight from secondary school, or people that just didn't go to university at all, and they are hoping to get more people from diverse backgrounds with this kind of process. And there are places like Penguin, which is one of the biggest trade publishers in the UK, and they are doing internships every summer. They have like a rolling system where they do like 2-week placements. You can apply as many times as you want, really, as long as you can show that you stand out from the crowd. The applications are getting bigger and bigger each time. I think when I applied for an internship once, there were 4,000 applicants. I luckily made it through to the interviews, but I didn't secure the job. But you know what? I see that as a celebration within itself.
Number 7.
Side note to this is, when you are applying for jobs, celebrate the small things as well. Celebrate your applications within themselves and say, I have sent off an application here, an application here, and an application here, and I feel really pleased with how I presented my writing. Because you might not hear back, or you might get rejection, and it does sting, but usually it's not a reflection on you. Like, they are trawling through thousands of applications. They are going to be picky. It's not because you did something wrong.
Number 8.
I will say this: go to a career advisor, because they are very good at helping you perfect your CVs and cover letters. And that, again, that might be obvious advice, but not everyone does it. I didn't do it for a long time, and I went to one at my university, and as soon as I did, they helped me move things around, and they also told me something very important, which is to avoid putting things in text boxes, because unfortunately a lot of systems now have automatic, like AI related scanning systems. So they can't scan your CV if it's all in text boxes. And probably simple is better. I know sometimes it's tempting to jazz it up a bit, but try not to go over the top. Make sure it's a readable font, size 10, size 11, no more than 2 pages. I think simplicity for a CV is better. You can leave the standing out to the interviews. That's what the interview is for, to see you and who you are as a person.
Number 9?
When it comes to interviews, I would say they are scary. They are something I have always hated doing, and I think partly that's to do with the fact I am neurodivergent, and there is this social barrier where I don't always understand the implication behind the question being asked, and I'm not always aware of what rules I'm supposed to be following, but I have learned through habit. So that's the other thing. Try to go to as many interviews as you possibly can. If an interview comes up for a job that you weren't actually that fussed about and you're like, but I want the other job, do it anyway. It's practice, because the more practice you can get, the better.
Number 10. Jazza.
I think also another tip I would say for getting into publishing is look for adjacent roles to the ones that you really want, because everyone goes down the route of, I really want to be an editorial assistant, I want to work in trade publishing, but there are so many other avenues that are just as interesting and varied, but are probably less talked about. For example, if you are interested in interacting with people from different parts of the world, the rights team might be for you, because books need to be sold to different territories around the world and translated into different languages, and sometimes it's just even acquiring the rights to make something a movie, or a television spin-off, or doing the merchandise based on a book. And those are all things that are vital to that book's longevity. And if you are good with people, potentially might get to travel the world and go to book fairs, who knows, depends how senior you get, but that's a really interesting role, and that's something I thought about. I didn't even know anything about rights before doing my masters, and when I found out, I was like, this needs to be advertised more. And I think slowly it is being advertised more, but it's just the less romantic role compared to being an editor. People think, I'm going to edit books, I'm going to help authors make their writing perfect, my magic fingers are behind this book, ooh. But there are so many other roles I can think of, working in production. So if you're interested in the digital side of things, you might want to be working on formatting and typesetting the books, or even working in bookbinding and printing. Those are very more hands-on roles, still require a lot of admin attention to detail, very, very important time-sensitive part of the process. So as long as you can work to a schedule and you don't mind the pressure, I think it sounds like a fascinating role. But of course, there are so many roles beyond within the team itself that are interesting. You could go into freelancing. For example, you might do some of the proofreading or copy editing as a freelancer, but also there are roles where they need people to do the indexing for textbooks in educational publishing, so that you have a clear guide of where all the keywords are, and you can go to the index of the book, find the keyword, find the page number, and see where the topic is. Things like that are really important, and if you've got technical skills, that is very much needed in publishing. Of course, there's booksellers. You don't have to go and work in a publishing house. That is, the dream role in many ways, but working with books could just mean selling books, and that is great fun. Don't forget that you don't have to work in trade. You could go to look at audio, working with audiobooks, or children's books, educational books, again, academic. There's so much more to it. And there's also things like packagers who work for publishers, and they're like an external company that work with several clients, and that would still be quite satisfying and interesting. So you don't have to just look at like Penguin, Hachette, Simon & Schuster. Is that how you say it? But the point is, there are many routes, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a traditional publishing house. Look everywhere, apply broadly, don't close your mind off to opportunities.
Number 11.
As for like the hard skills that you gather to get the jobs, I already mentioned admin skills. I would also say they are very keen to see any kind of extracurricular stuff related to awareness around books and marketing books. So as you can imagine, having book talks or Instagram book accounts are quite a good thing. Bookstagram, I should say. There's a lot of people I know that I've been friends with who have these accounts where they review books and other content, and it's really, really helped them get into those sorts of areas of publishing. Alongside that, I would say any kind of writing that you've done and publishing your own work probably is a good thing to show them, because they'll know that you know what good writing looks like, and possibly what the publishing process is like. So you've got admin, market awareness, interest in books, obviously it's a given. You don't necessarily have to say that in your cover letter though, because they'll be like, duh, like, why would you be applying if you didn't like books? But yeah, that's still important. Maybe show a genuine interest in the area you're applying for. Oh, and research skills. Do your damn research. I can't emphasize this enough. They can tell if you don't. This is why I say to apply broadly, but also to only apply to a few at a time.
Number 12.
So that would be the other piece of advice I would say, is to apply broadly, but sparingly, if that makes sense. Magic. But yes, because it is exhausting. Applications take a long ass time. So if you're doing different roles in different parts of the business, you might need to tweak your CV a bit to show those skills. And then you have to write a whole cover letter. And you can make template cover letters, but I'll be completely honest, the times I've actually secured interviews is when I've written it out from scratch, because I've had to focus solely on that company and also the imprint within the publishing company, and also on the specific products they sell in their lists. One example I can think of is I was really interested in applying to this history publisher. So I went on their website and I looked through their lists, and I chose 2 specific series of books that I thought looked interesting, and I talked about how I would personally market them to different parts of the world, because it was a rights role. So I was talking about that and how I would reach out to them. And I also talked about the modules I did in rights. Obviously not everyone's going to have that experience, but I had a whole paragraph just dedicated to talking about that module and my view of their list and the marketing potential of it. If you have a template, you're not going to have room for the individual unique things that you research about the company. So yes, maybe have a template opening paragraph and closing paragraph to be like, here's like a snapshot of me and why I'm interested in the role, and then a closing thing like I look forward to being a part of the team. But the stuff in the middle is where they're going to see that you've really shown that you care about them, and I hate to say it, but flattery does work. So yeah.
It's story time. Story time.
This is like how I personally got into my first proper permanent role, and maybe me sharing my story will give you a better overview of all the stuff I've rabbited on about and not really thought through properly. So I did a creative writing degree, but then I had lots of different jobs after that. Like I just worked in childcare, I worked as a tutor, I worked in marketing. So I did try to talk about those things in my CV because marketing was useful, the admin side of things, copywriting, because copywriting is a really important skill as an editorial assistant, because you might be writing book blurbs or emailing people. And then with the tutoring, I was tutoring in English. So again, a knowledge of the curriculum, which helped when applying to educational publishers. So I could talk about that, working with different audiences. And then I finally secured a role as an editorial assistant with a packager. And a packager, as I said before, isn't a publishing house, but they work with other publishers. So then they don't have to deal with sourcing all the typesetters, freelancers, printers, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, I worked there as an editorial assistant. It was a fixed term role. I didn't secure permanent work, sadly, but it did spur me on to do the masters because I was like, this is really interesting. I want to learn more. I want to get a job that I can be in for a really long time. So I did that, got a tutoring job alongside, and I also did some freelance work for the same company. And it meant that I could do a bit of that in my own time with flexible hours within reason. And that was great because it meant like on and off. It's been about 2.5 years now because of the course being part-time. But I've had those experiences. And again, through uni, they were like, we're looking for people to review some books, some children's books. I was like, that sounds fun. Yeah, why not? Did that for a month or two. More experience added. Any little experience that you hear of, you could just add. Like if you can afford to just do random things like part-time or fixed term or just like temporary 1 week thing, do it. Like it's easier when you're a student and you're not actually working full-time, when you're not paying the bills on a mortgage and stuff like that. And then I started applying more seriously to jobs, started getting more interviews very slowly. And this year things got a bit better and I noticed my CV was more padded out. I was more confident in interviews. I'd been rejected so many times that I just didn't care anymore. Like I knew what I wanted and I knew I quickly got a vibe in interviews. And you know, I was getting to the interview stage more often in places, but never quite getting past it, and it was hard to understand why. That's another thing I will add actually. It can get frustrating getting feedback on interviews because they will say really nice things about you. You'll be like, could you let me know what I could do to improve for next time? And they might say, you interviewed really well. You showed great knowledge of our books and the industry, and we were really impressed by your previous experiences. Unfortunately, we went with someone with slightly more experience than you, and it's always that. It's always slightly more because they will just pick the person that overall has more experience. I have no idea if there are other reasons, and maybe it's because I said something weird during the interview, because that has happened a couple of times. I have taken questions quite literally when they've been like, so tell me about yourself. And I'm like, well, it all started when I was born. But there's been things that I've said and I'm like, they don't need to know that I sing in the shower. That is not a professional answer to an interview question, Lauren. Just tell them about your career. Anyway, but I saw this job coming up at a local publisher, literally a 20-minute walk from where I live. And I was like, I have to apply. And it was a step down from what I'd done before because I was an editorial assistant and this was a publishing assistant, which is like unassigned within the business and they can sort of plop you anywhere. But I didn't really care about that because it's a new process and it would give me more time to figure out the process if I was really junior. And I was like, this looks fun. And I did all I could to apply. I also played the long game with this one because I had a module where we had to analyse an international business strategy, and I chose my local company because I knew that they were international, and I was like, maybe they will employ me and flatter them a little bit. And it did help because I kept bringing up in the interviews. Interview 1, they were like, I can see that you've done a case study on us. I was like, yes, oh yes, I know a lot about you. Here's everything I know. But I'm not saying you necessarily have to write a case study on a publisher to get employed with them. But I'm saying it don't hurt. Like if you do a publishing course, it doesn't hurt to think about the publishers that are local to you, that you're more likely to get employed by. Anyway, And then I got the job. So I think it also helped that I felt like I could be myself with them. I felt the vibe. I understood that they employ from a range of backgrounds. They had different personalities within the publishing team, and I felt reassured that I could be relaxed in the interview and be a little bit more honest about my approach. It helped. Now I'm here, and yeah. So I hope that's been helpful. I don't know how much of that was just absolute drivel, because I kind of just did it off the cuff. But it's, again, it could do all the things and it could still be really hard to get a job, and I appreciate it's a tough industry to get into. So I just want to leave you with this parting message of, don't be hard on yourself. Like, give yourself some grace. Like, everyone is trying really hard, and I get a sense that anyone that's trying to get into publishing, they're doing it because they love it, and that's admirable. And I think you've got to give yourself a break from applying from jobs now and then to work on just living, because the more you live and the more you experience of life, the more you've got to talk about, and the right publisher will see you. You don't want to work somewhere that doesn't work with you. So yeah.
If you would like more tips with this lovely mug in this format, do let me know, because I am happy to yap all day. See you later, Substack. Nice.